Welcome, one and all, to the Consistently OK podcast. I'm your host, Luke, and I'm joined as ever with Nick. This episode, we're going to be talking all about pop culture and focusing primarily on The Last of Us and the first two episodes of the new TV series, James Gunn and the DC and everything going on there. And also, we're going to touch upon Black Panther 2, which Nick has now seen. All right, strap in, here we go. Let's get to it then. Nick, first of all, how are you?
I'm all good, mate. Yeah, it's been a minute, and I feel like I've just barrel rolled into several creative projects, and I'm tired again. So
excellent. I'm always tired. That's just the way it is. So I haven't even got several projects going on. I'm just generally in always consistently okay state of tiredness.
What more could you be?
So we'll dive in just straight away. Then talk about a very big deal. Everyone's talking about it. It's The Last of Us, the TV show. You and I, both very big fans of the game. We have done a long, I think our first ever podcast was about The Last of Us Part 2 game.
It was basically the reason why we started the podcast.
Memories. So since that podcast has come out, that first ever episode, HBO started developing a TV series, and it released. Episode 1 came out last week, 2 weeks ago now, I guess it is.
Yeah, coming up to 3. This will go out
up to 3, yeah.
Yeah, so this will go out on Monday, the 30th of Jan. So people would have had third episode today.
Yeah, so we've had it today. So yeah, 2 weeks ago, 3 weeks ago, Jesus Christ, maths, eh? So that came out. So yeah, I mean, should I just give a little bit of a rundown about how it's come about? So it's from the creators, from Neil Druckmann, who did the game. He's a very talented individual, and he joined up with Craig Mazin. Pretty sure that's how you say his name. And he's known more recently for doing the very, 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 very good TV show Chernobyl, which is fantastic television. So they've come together with a whole team of awesome people, and they've decided, hey, The Last of Us game, that's some good shit. Let's turn it into a TV show. And it had a very good cast. Pedro Pascal, Mandalorian fame, amongst other things. He's Joel. And they have Bella Ramsey, who I only know her from being in Game of Thrones. And standing up to the people of the North. And she plays Ellie. And there's a bunch of other people. Anna Torv from Fringe, she is Tess. And Gabriel Luna is Joel's brother Tommy. So it's a very good cast, which we'll get more into. And it's done very well, Nick. It's in the millions. The millions of people have sat down with their loved ones and watched a TV show all about fungus.
Yeah, good.
I mean, let's just go straight for your thoughts. What do you think about the TV show?
No surprise, I'm loving it. I've loved both episodes. I thought, especially the opening of episode 1, the fact that it was so different, like opening on the talk show in like the 60s. And they basically set it up that it's like, if this thing happens.
Yeah, the talk show was really good, wasn't it? I thought it was a really nice, cool way to start it, because it looks like episode 2 as well has an opening that isn't in the games. It's not linked at all, or is linked. I actually wondered, because I haven't played the games for a bit now, especially the first one, but obviously during these games, there's always some notes that you can read and everything like that. So I was curious if some of these bits that we see in the beginning episodes are actually teased in the game. I haven't read anything to suggest they could be.
As far as I know, they're not. I'm just replaying part 1. So Charles, my partner, experienced Last of Us Part 2 when it came out, because we were in lockdown, and so we sort of played through it. But he hadn't played part 1, and so he bought part 1 over Christmas, and he went through it. And it's amazing. Like the job that they've done on that is really impressive, because The thing I forgot.
It's a full upgrade, isn't it?
Yeah. Like
part one.
This is the thing that I completely forgot, because this is a complete side note from the series, but they charge 70 quid for it. I'm not sure it's worth 70. I think it's
68.
Yeah. No, I think it's like if they charge like 30 or 40, I think that's decent. Like there is a ton of work they've done on it and it is really impressive. But to hit the 70 mark, I would have liked like just a couple of additions. So like Left Behind, I would have liked that to have been included in just in the narrative. Like give me just one long stretch with that included. And then also like at the end when you get to the hospital, this is spoiling the show, but like
hey,
sorry.
If you've not played the game yet, then
yeah,
shame on you.
We're gonna spoil it ultimately anyway. But yeah, when you get to
Joel dies.
But you do meet a cool character called Abby. But
you'll have to really put a spoiler warning now.
Yeah. So when you get to the hospital, I was thinking like, oh, it'd be really cool if they've included like a note from Abby or just something to like tie it to part 2 a bit more.
Yeah, link it, yeah.
And there's nothing. And those two things, I was kind of like, I feel like you've missed a bit of a trick. But yeah, graphically amazing. Technically, it just looks incredible. And the thing I didn't realize was that Last of Us originally came out PS3, but before Uncharted 4.
Yeah.
Which I
had 2013, wasn't it, Last of Us?
Yeah, and I think Uncharted 4 was like 15 or 16 or something.
I think it was 15, 16, yeah.
Completely
years after at least.
And there is a huge jump from like the original Last of Us and Uncharted 4 just visually. And so like when you get to this one, it looks closer to like that Uncharted 4 kind of hyperrealism thing, which is very good. But yeah, playing it, I haven't seen any references to like the first bite kind of thing and like a place that was bombed out. And that was a very cool opening. That was good.
Yeah, it's really cool because I think it just kind of set the tone. It was quite dramatic with especially when the audience goes dead silent when is it James Nesbitt, isn't it?
Yeah, which is like
I mean, I had no idea he was in it, but it was very, very cool that he was there. He was also like a talk show host. Talking with him, the talk show host is like your general talk show host, like your Jimmy Fallon stuff. He's like joking around a little bit, or your old school TV hosts anyway, that are pandering to the audience a lot, and then just goes dead serious. It's kind of like, holy shit, like this could happen. Everything could get a bit warmer, and this fungus could spread around. So, I think it just all looked good as well. James Gunn, like he's smoking his cigarette, and he's almost come to the conclusion that this is what's going to happen, and there's nothing that we can do about it. So, really, really like the opening. I love the music as well, the intro. Obviously, the music from the game. I thought that's
John Hannah. That's it. Sorry,
John Hannah. Yeah, that's it. Yeah.
Yeah.
What did I say? James Nesbitt. Yeah, because it's not him, is it?
Yeah. But I was like, I couldn't remember the name, and I was like, oh, it's going to annoy me. But yeah, John Hannah.
Yeah,
which is a really random cameo. Yeah, and it is an odd cameo. Like it's because he's quite a big actor, and so when he was there, I was like, that's impressive that he's just in like 3 minutes.
Because John Hannah, he's the one. He's in The Mummy and everything, isn't he? And things like that. And then James Nesbitt's in more like Channel 4 dramas and things like that. Cold Feet, Hobbit. Yes.
Yeah.
Oh, see, it's good. I was like done some real good research for this podcast. Always. This time rather than just winging it and then straight in with the whole James Nesbitt. So it's James Nesbitt, isn't it? Yeah, we're both in agreement, and then it's actually not James Nesbitt. So terrible beginning. But anyway, really strong intro. Love the music and the graphics that they have. Kind of makes me. I love a good intro. It's like Daredevil on Netflix and stuff. Those opening ones where it's like it says to skip the intro, and you're like, well, skip the intro. I'm going to enjoy every bit of it. And then when it's the last episode, you're like, it's the last time I'm ever going to see this intro. But
I'm going to be kind of gutted if they don't bring that back for Daredevil, because that intro is gold.
It's probably white wall there. It's going to be like the Disney logo, and then it's going to be like some sort of musical. It's not going to be the same. I mean, none of them really have that many. Do they have intros in the Marvel shows? I'm trying to think now.
Can't remember.
I mean, they have better outros, like She-Hulk and Ms. Marvel had like some cool music and everything like that. I know you love Ms. Marvel, but let's just not talk about it. Anyway,
Yeah.
back to The Last of Us. So yeah, I thought so. Obviously, it's done really well. I think there's a lot of I think the casting is very good. I do. It is. Wow. Let's just keep going at the beginning. What did you think about the opening bit? Like obviously it's a bit different to the game. In the TV show, we have a lot more bits in the morning, like with Joel and his daughter, whose name I forget is Sarah. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, Sarah. So they have a lot more dialogue and get into a little bit to know Sarah, because obviously you want to feel a little bit more for Sarah. She goes and gets the watch, which is very significant as well, especially in The Last of Us Part 2.
Yes.
And then it kind of goes straight back to the game then, where she wakes up in her bed at night and all this stuff's going off, and in the game Joel comes through the window and he's like, ah! It's a very good, very solid opening. I thought it was really well done. What did you think? What do you think, Nick?
It's good, yeah. Like I said to Charles, because we both watched it, I said that I wasn't sure if it was as impactful as the game. So like I love all the extra stuff, like seeing how Sarah fixes the watch and like seeing all of that tension there kind of build up to it. But the actual moment where you see an infected in the game, where the neighbor just like bursts through the door and then Joel shoots him, and it's like, oh fuck. Like,
because the neighbor comes through, doesn't he, through the
so like
the glass,
like patio door thing, because
and then doesn't Joel burst through as well? Isn't he?
No,
like,
so
right
Joel comes through first, and then he's like getting.
Oh yeah, he comes through. Yeah, he gets let in, doesn't he?
Yeah,
of course.
And then he gets the gun and he says, "Oh, Sarah, stay behind me." And then the guy runs up to the window and like smashes through, and then Joel shoots him, and then they go into the car. Whereas in this, it's she goes into the house, sees the grandma biting, and then and I don't know if that's as impactful, but then I think the reason that the game's more impactful with it is that like you're playing it passively. I don't know if that would work, like just watching it. I don't know if you'd get that same level of like, oh shit. Whereas in the show, because everything is more passive, because you're not like, you don't have the agency as the player. I feel like what they've done works.
I agree. I think not just that, like the whole episode, which we'll come to, but I think they've done very well. It would have been the easiest thing in the world, I think, to just open with the way they open the game and keep people really happy in terms of like, we want it to be just like the game. But obviously, as a TV show, you've got to give them a little bit more dialogue. That's why I like the intro so much that we both said with the talk show, because it's not just bam, like you're in the Last of Us game. It's a bit more context. So very smart. I feel like Pedro Pascal's accent for Joel was stronger at the beginning of the episode, and then it kind of wears away a little bit. Did you notice that, or was it just me?
I haven't noticed it. I feel like he just speaks a bit like Pedro Pascal. Like it kind of just sounds like Mandalorian.
Yeah. Okay.
Or he's really obsessed with Nick Cage. That's the two realms of Pedro Pascal that I'm on.
They are. But I think he does. I mean, I think he looks the part as Joel as well. I think that's very good casting. I also think that Gabriel Luna is good as Tommy. I was a bit unsure. When I saw some of the photos and stuff, I thought, it's not because of like generally the way he looks. I just thought I don't know. It didn't feel like it worked when I saw like the set photos, but he does a great job. I think he's really, really good. So to like when they pull up in the car and everything like that, I think he's just nails the role. So I'm looking forward to seeing more of him as well further down the line. That's a spoiler, by the way.
It is. I was about to say
he's okay.
I'm really curious to see how they've done like older Tommy.
Yeah, I wonder as well. I was just thinking about him at the end again. Well, we're past the point of spoilers as well, but he's just completely battered, isn't he? At the end of part 2, like by the time
part 2
he gets to Ellie, he's just limping and he's
been shot in the head.
He's such like a big part of it. You think because he's the brother, but he's in part 1 a lot, and he's in the beginning of part 2 quite a bit, and throughout part 2. So he's it's a big role for Gabriel Luna as well.
He's got a lot of longevity on it. So
what did you think about? Obviously, it moves forward 20 years, doesn't it? So after, obviously, you've got all the things that go on. We should talk about Joel's daughter as well. That scene where she gets shot and everything like that.
It's great,
very
like
emotional,
that.
isn't
it? Yeah, and that's also very like one-to-one with the video game. Like that whole sequence once they leave, and they show like the burning farm. That's like in the game, and that's
in the game.
The way it's shot on like a swivel is like the game as well.
Because they turn around. The first thing they get where they get to the first junction, that's just like the game, isn't it? And looking back towards Sarah and everything like that. It's very smartly done. It's interesting, isn't it? Because obviously Neil dropped him on board as well. So I don't know, because I don't know if it was him or Craig Mazin who directed the first episode.
I think Craig did the first, and I think Neil does the second.
Because they wrote it together, didn't they? They wrote the first episode together.
Yeah, I think
Neil does the second, and then Craig Mazin does the majority of the next episode. I know Druckmann shows up he's like doing like 7 or 8 episodes, 7 or 8.
Yeah.
So it's interesting that they were probably, when they were writing and things, like, okay, this is what we're going to keep in from the game. This looks really good. Because a lot of the dialogue is quite similar, isn't it, as well? Like,
I mean, some of it is literally lifted from the game.
I mean, that is one thing will get into at the end of episode 2, which is probably so far my only frustration with the TV show. But anyway, like the visuals of that, the whole car and the other car crashing into their car, and them escaping, and then when they get to the point with the army officer, I don't know who it was.
Yeah,
I just thought it was very well done, very well acted, very emotional. They could have dragged out, I think, even more potentially, which is good. They just kind of rolled on with it. So really good. And then I love the 20 years later, and it generally looks like a shit show. Like there's no this is what happened, this is this. It's just like you're in.
That's a nice change as well. Like, because the 20 years later in the game, it's like it just jumps 20 years later, and then Joel wakes up in his apartment, and then Tess comes in. And so the 20 years later on this one, where it's sort of like you see them burning bodies, and there's the thing with
the boy's body, isn't it?
Yeah,
the girl. The girl's body. Yeah, that burn. That
really
just shows you how far it's come, because he's mourning his daughter 20 years ago, and then at this point he's not even blinking at lobbing another child on the fire.
Yes, and I thought that was done really well, because it's just like the game gives you again like the sense of agency that when you are playing as Joel and you go outside the house, you sort of see like the lines for rations, and you see people have been lined up and they're being tested to see whether they've got the virus. And then I think one of them tries to run away and gets shot, and it all sort of happens to your side, like as you're walking through the streets. And so again, like that is something that only the game can do, because in the series it's kind of like somebody's going to get shot or whatever, like you're going to show that moment, whereas in the game it's a passing moment. It's something that you can choose to see or ignore. And so I feel like what they've done in the series, where you see the burning of bodies and you see essentially like how this new Boston is working, is really good and really clever.
Well, they up the ante very quickly, don't they? Like from you're not seeing on the sidelines what you do in the game. It's like bam, burning bodies, everything's terrible, like rations here. I mean, even Tess getting her ass kicked is the first time you see Anna Torv, she's in getting battered.
Which is something you don't see in the game. She just turns up.
You don't see that in the game, do you? She just turns up, because obviously she's like, they've been like double crossed and everything. So what do you think of Anna Torv as Tess?
I really liked her. Liked being the spoiler there. I think she was cool. She added a lot to the role. And I like Anna Torv. Like, she's just cool. She's good in Fringe. And
I think I like Anna Torv as well, but I don't think I can ever see her as anything other than from Fringe. She does this thing where she crouched several times in this to look at something on the floor, and all I can think about is her in Fringe when she's like inspecting something. But it was not in her suits and stuff. And but she's good. I think she's badass, isn't she? Like, she's badass, and and I think Anna Torv balances well, because she's obviously quite terrified at the same time. So like on the surface she's a badass, under the surface she's not. And I like that fact that she really likes Joel as well. But Joel is just probably obviously cares for her as well. You can see that when he finds out that she's been beaten up or attacked, like his instinct is to go and like kill whoever's done it. But
Yeah.
obviously he doesn't feel the same way in that she does for him.
Yeah.
So I think she's good. Yeah, I think it's been a little bit of casting.
Yeah.
What do you think about Bella Ramsey?
Yeah, Bella Ramsey. I think she's cool. I just haven't got like I don't think she's had enough screen time yet for me to have like a proper opinion on it.
No, I agree with that as well.
Like the scene at the start of the second episode where they're sort of keeping an eye on her to see about the bite and stuff, and she does the joke where she's like, I think that's quite cool. And that
I think that's exact. Well, I think that whole scene when they're when she wakes up there and like she needs to go for a piss and whatnot, that's the best like part we see of her being Ellie. Like it's the most sense I've had as like Ellie from the game.
Yeah.
And everything, all the bits that she's done before.
Yeah, but I kind of think that like playing through the game again, like alongside the series, Ellie kind of doesn't come into her own until like after Tess. Like you sort of do the Bill section, and then kind of around Bill is where you get a bit more sense of her, and then by the time you get to Sam and Henry, and it has just been Joel and Ellie for a little while. That's sort of I think where their relationship it starts to kind of.
Yeah, because I was going to say, I mean, I haven't played part one. I haven't played part one, but the original Last of Us. I haven't played it. I did play the remaster version when it was on the PS4. I mean, it must have been a couple of years before part two came out, so it would look like 2018-ish. It's quite a long time that I haven't played it. So I was curious as to when I couldn't remember when those two, Joel and Ellie, like really came together. I remember bits when they're on their way to Tommy's and they're going through the water and she's climbing the boards and there's a good back and forth dialogue because they're kind of a bit more playful banter between them. And I remember him, obviously there's the bit when he's injured and Ellie's out on her own for a bit and they care for each other, but I couldn't remember. I did think if it was when there's like the scenes where they're going through the houses with the other two guys, the dad and the son. I can't remember their names. You said it a minute ago.
Sam and Henry.
But that's it then? That's when they start to.
Yeah, I think it is kind of around then that you start to see more of the relationship between the two of them. Because I think the period after Tess, Joel is still very kind of shut off, doesn't want to talk about it. Is like, let's just get to Bill.
He's like a protector, isn't he? But not protector because he cares for her. Like he's a protector because he's doing it for Tess, right?
Yeah. And then after Bill, they sort of have a bit more conversation. I think that's when they get to Pittsburgh, where it's like that's where they get the ambush, and then it's very much like them against the marauder bandity people, and then they bump into Sam and Henry. And I think by the time you're with Sam and Henry, there is more of that relationship of Joel and Ellie, and there's more trust in the two of them.
It's all about the like the military and stuff in it, because that was a thing. I'm just going to jump a little bit ahead while it's fresh in my head. Is that obviously they changed that at the end of episode 2, didn't they? Because in the game, it's the military that shows up, and they are, that's who Tess confronts before she dies.
Yeah,
this was infected, but I wonder if they're going to go a different way with it, because obviously the Fireflies are definitely involved, but I don't know why they made that change.
Yeah, I think
I don't know if it hadn't really been introduced yet. Maybe they were doing it because of timing. I don't. Maybe they just wanted to show, because they're not using spores in this, so it's just the fungus.
Yeah,
I wonder if it's like we had to really push the fungus idea that it's like part of a network, which I thought was a really nice or clever thing to talk about in the show.
Yeah, I think that's it. I think it's that like Fedra in this and also in the game sort of just disappear. Like after Boston, and you're out kind of in the middle of nowhere a bit more, and you end up in Pittsburgh, and then you end up in Texas, whatever, or Jackson. At that point, Fedra do sort of become like forgotten. They are the only kind of bits of Fedra is where you stumble on like an evacuation zone or whatever. that's the times when you bump into Fedra, but you don't ever bump into actual Fedra soldiers again. Like once you're out of Boston. And I think that's kind of what they've done here, is that it's almost like episode 1 is Fedra, because that's the environment they're in. But then episode 2 is more about the infected, and I think it is a sense of like, you get the same thing. Like Tess basically dies doing the same thing she does in the game, in that she gives them a head start.
I mean, that is identical to the game, isn't it? Apart
Yeah.
from the
That
was what's frustrating, because it was just identical.
But I think there's going to be a hell of a lot of that. Like, I think a lot of it is going to be 1 for 1, because that's the only way you can tell the story without like completely changing things. Is like, if you gave Tess longer, you get less time with Joel and Ellie.
I don't think it had to be longer. I think it's perfect the way that she's done her part already. I just think it could have been maybe a little bit of a different setting. I know we've just said they've changed the infected. They put the infected in there instead of the army, but I don't know, like just something a little bit like different, because it almost seemed a little bit too. Although I like things like at the beginning where we said like the farm on fire and everything, I like all of that. I like familiarity with it because I love the game, but I just something, that I saw like a comparison of the game and the TV show, and it just felt, I don't know. I just wish, just even if the dialogue was tweaked a little bit, like just in some more bits, like different beats, but anyway, it was still good. Sorry, I interrupted you for the 1 millionth time.
That's the other thing. Like, they did change, is that they go through a hotel with Tess. That isn't with Tess in the game. Like, that's just Joel and Ellie. And like, that whole thing felt different. Like, just the feeling of it. It's like they're almost giving you moments in different places, in a sense. And so I think the ending, like, I just feel that there are going to be a hell of a lot of 1 of 1s. Like, I wonder about the ending with like the killing of Marlene. This is major spoilers, but like, we've already said Joel dies. But like, killing of Marlene, and like, I wonder whether, like, even down to Joel taking Ellie at the end, whether that'll just be shot basically the same way. And like how he kills Abby's dad and all that kind of stuff. I almost think that the big stuff is always going to be the same. Dialogue, what is everything, just because the game is very much like, just the writing on it is just like so good. Perfect.
But then that's it though, isn't it? Because it's 9 episodes, right? Because the way I imagined it, because I didn't really see it not being a success, but I thought they would probably do like season 1 there would be a natural point where it would leave on a cliffhanger, which in my head I thought it would be when Joel's fucked and Ellie goes out on her own.
Yep.
And then season 2 would start with Ellie, like that first episode would be her in the snow on her own, like learning how to hunt and stuff. And then season 2 would naturally end where part 1 ends. And then you'd start thinking, because if you've got to cram everything into those 9 episodes, which I know the game is probably only so long complete, but that's probably why they are going to have to do a lot of these important scenes that's so well written, because they know it works, or they've got to get them in. I guess what I'm trying to say is that maybe they could have expanded some scenes like the test scene, or done a little bit more, but it's probably time they have to do it, because it seems very likely that season 1 will end where part 1 ends, right?
Yeah, I mean, I'm 90% sure that it will end at part 1, because when they've just announced that they've got season 2, and that season 2 will adapt part 2. But from what I understand, like, having read around in interviews and stuff, they're trying to figure out whether part 2 is like multiple seasons, because A, it's a longer game, and B, you've got 2 characters there that you do follow. So
yeah, I mean, part 2 went on for, I remember you and I saying when we were playing it, as we spoke about on our other podcast, that there were times where you're like, hey, I'm here, and I'd be like, oh yeah, okay, I must be like near the end then.
Yeah.
I was like, no, I'm not anywhere near the end.
Yeah.
So it's like halfway through.
Yeah,
so,
yeah,
it would be good. I don't know, because I love I really do like part 1, so I just thought bring it up. But then there's also a case that it could crash, like it could lose its audience. So maybe it's good to get it done in 2-3 seasons. I mean, I know I've seen some highlights or clips, and I've seen a bit when like Joel's in the university and stuff, which is so fucking good in the game.
Yeah.
I think it's a university, or is it like in the
Yeah,
dorm rooms and then they
yeah.
pop down? Yeah. Are you up to that bit again when you're playing it with Charles? Have you got that far yet?
Yeah, so Charles has done like a whole playthrough, and then I'm just going through and like 100%ing it. So I'm picking up all the documents and stuff.
Okay.
So I'm sort of doing like.
So I've seen that. So I've seen that bit. So I mean, if they have that in a TV show where Joel has to go and fix the fucking battery in the bottom of the, I think that's in the university, isn't it? And then it's just like when you do, and then just all of a sudden you just hear the clickers in the background. It's like, what the fuck are they?
Good. There's a bit in the hotel where you
there's a bit when he has to fix the. Oh, is it a hotel? Yeah, when he has to fix the generator.
Yeah, because in the hotel they like go up an elevator shaft, and then he helps Ellie up, and then as he's about to go up, the elevator drops.
Yeah, it drops. Yeah, and then he gets
he's
stuck.
like in a basement area, and
yeah. I remember.
That's really good.
I thought it was pretty cool with the hotel with Joel and Tess. Is that it kind of felt like they're doing the same game, because when Joel gives her a boost, there's only like a few like I don't know, centimeters of space for like Anatole's character Tess to crawl through.
Yeah.
It's kind of like it's just like the game, isn't it? Like you get launched through, and then you're waiting, or you go the other side with the other character. So I thought that was pretty cool nod.
Yeah, the set design and stuff's amazing. Like I really liked in the second episode as well the shot of like the close up of the piano and the frog jumping on the piano.
Yeah,
I thought that was awesome. Like that felt very like the game.
Yes, I agree. And that's where Bella Ramsey as Ellie. That's now that scene where we said where she's wakes up in the morning and she's talking to Joel and Tess. Like that whole bit from there feels very much like Bella Ramsey is Ellie with her her jokes and did I say Ellie? No, not say Ellie. Yeah, when she's like making little jokes about in the hotel and everything like that. That's what she's like in the game. Is when she's comfortable and they're not running for their lives.
Yeah,
she's always making those jokes.
Yeah, she's got like a joke book and stuff.
Yeah, she does have a joke book. Yeah, that's true.
I'm curious where they fit in Left Behind, because I know it's in it because I've seen it in the trailer. Like there's a shot of Riley and stuff. So I'm curious whether that is done just as like a flashback, or whether it is at the point in which Joel gets injured, because that's the point in which the story tells Left Behind. So I wonder whether they do that. And how they do.
There is an episode title, episode 7. It's called Left Behind.
Oh, so maybe it's a whole episode.
Spoiler, Nick. Just spoiled it for you.
That's all right. I was curious at what point they do it, but yeah.
Yeah. So it's so there might be a break.
Yeah.
Somewhere in there.
That's a really good story as well. Like the story of Left Behind is really good.
Yeah, it's really good. It's really it's awesome. They've also, because they're doing the multiplayer game as well, aren't they? So maybe season 3 will just be multiplayer madness on the TV screen.
Yeah, just loads
like
of people.
Bunch of factions killing each other.
I
was just thinking now. You said about splitting part 2 up and how massive it is, because that's like, if we're saying this as just like a bit of the army, and then it's sort of some other bits, and then ends of the Firefly, so it has like 3 different stages. I mean, part 2 has the bloody religious guys that are like tying people up and killing people, and with Lev and everything like that. It's got all the Abbey stuff, all that side of the story. So
I mean, like part 2 is literally like you've got opening with Joel, and then you've got Seattle day 1, 2, and 3 as Ellie, Seattle day 1, 2, and 3 as Abby. You've then got in the middle of that is also the Abby introduction, where it's like she's in Salt Lake City at the same time as Joel.
Yeah.
And then you've got
Ellie
Santa Barbara.
No, because it's Ellie at the house first, isn't it?
She's where she has like a panic attack.
Yeah, like post. She's like going a bit insane, and then Santa Barbara, isn't it? And then back again for the end, but that's only short, obviously. When she goes back to the farm and everyone's gone.
Yeah. So you get that scene with Joel, which is awesome.
I saw someone say earlier, like the one thing they recommend whoever gets cast as Abby should not have a social media because she will be
yeah,
absolutely destroyed.
I did say this to Charles though. I'm really curious whether, assuming that this first season ends in Salt Lake City and Joel has taken Ellie and killed Abby's dad, does season 2 then open up like linear with Abby seeing that moment? And does it then change your view of Abby because you're like, oh, Joel, yeah, you're like, Joel's killed her dad before she kills him.
We both liked Abby, right?
Yeah, I mean, I love Abby. Like, I am very much in part 2. I'm like, Abby is more in the right than Ellie.
Yeah, because Ellie drove me nuts. Drove me nuts. Like her attitude and stuff. But I understand it as well. But because she's a bit difficult with Joel as well at the beginning of part 2. But Joel didn't deserve to die, obviously. But again, you can kind of see where Joel's coming from.
Yeah.
You can see where Ellie's coming from, and you can see where Abby's coming from. Because for all Abby knows is her dad is like trying to save the world.
Yeah.
And no, you shouldn't kill a girl either to get it. But like, then someone to kill your dad, like, you know, someone was to do something to one of my kids, or someone was to do something to me, one of my kids, I fully expect them to avenge me in the apocalypse.
But I think that's the thing, isn't it? That like Abby just kills Joel, and she doesn't kill Ellie. She leaves Ellie. She's like,
yeah,
she came here just to kill that. And she doesn't kill Tommy either. Whereas Ellie's response is like, I'm going to kill everyone all of your friends. Yeah. And then
you're pregnant, I'm going to kill you.
Yeah, which is like,
shit.
Fucking hell. Like, it's a bit much. So I'm really curious with the series, as it evolves and you get there, how that works, like whether they tell it all linear and whether that changes how you feel about people or not. I'm just really curious.
I mean, it depends, doesn't it? I mean, that's the thing. So my wife, Yannicka, she hasn't played the games, but just through pure hatred of what happened with Joel, she knows. I didn't tell her anything, but she knows because she's heard, like, she knows, like, doesn't that guy die? I'm like, no. Like, but obviously most people will probably know. I mean, it's going to be difficult to not go into season 2 without knowing what happens, but like, so many people hated. I told you the story of the guy I used to work with, and he was like, I'm never going to play it because I know what happens. It's like, dude, just play it.
You got to get past it, because like,
so it's curious how people think. I think it'll be different in the TV show as well, right? I think it's going to be more, people will probably sympathize with Abby regardless.
I think there's a version of it where you sympathize with Abby before she kills Joel, whereas the game is the other way around, that it's like she kills Joel and then you learn about Abby.
I wish I could go back and, like, I remember the moment I played it, and I remember when Joel died, and I remember thinking, that can't, like, there's no way he's dead. Like, he just can't be dead. Like, it's the whole thing. And then, you know, over time you realize, as we've said already previously as well, that it's Ellie's story. It's always been Ellie's story. Yeah. It's not been,
Joel's.
You know, it's not, that's, you know, naturally, if there was a part 3, which they're saying probably isn't likely, but fuck me, there has to be a part 3. Then, like, Ellie's probably going to die at the end, isn't she? Like, it'll be like full circle. I'm sure, like, finally there'll be a cure. Like, it'll all be like her sacrifice will save the world. So I don't know what that voice was. But I don't know. I lost my train of thought now after doing that weird voice. Who knows?
But yeah, I think there is an interesting thing that they can do with the series. The other thing I was really curious about with the series, which we touched on really briefly, is would you rather, if you were in that world, have spores or have the connected network thing?
Ooh. I mean, if I had spores, I'd have to wear a mask, and then my face wouldn't be on TV. That's what they're saying it is, isn't it? They're saying, I mean, that's all probably bullshit, but they're saying, like, the actors and actresses don't want to wear
possibly, but I think it's also
covered up with masks.
Isn't it also, because I was speaking to Charles about this earlier on, and I think it's that on a video game you can show spores, but in real life you wouldn't necessarily see them as much, like, because they're harder to see.
I mean, it does kind of make sense, but still, I mean, they did show spores, didn't they? They just didn't infect you. Like, there was a bit, wasn't there a bit where, like, puffed out, and it was kind of like, I think it's a real shame. I'm going to answer your question, But I think it's a real shame that they don't have spores in the game, because it just makes Ellie so much more like brilliant that she's can't get infected, because she can go in these rooms without a mask on, and I think it just adds something to it. Like it
she did get bit again, which was quite cool.
Yeah,
like seeing her get like bit and just be like,
yeah, it's fine.
Yeah,
but in the thing, like Joel is the big, he's the muscle, like he's this and he's that, and Ellie's this vulnerable girl, but Ellie can do something Joel can't do.
Yeah,
like I know that obviously that was a good moment as well when Tessa's like, these things can still destroy you, like can still rip you apart. You're not immune to being. It was a great line.
Yeah, that was great.
And that was great that she showed her the horde. Anyway, I'll circle back to these last 2 points, but I just think they've missed a trick there. I wish they'd done it. I kind of understand if it is the whole actors don't want to mess up Pedro Pascal's second biggest thing going on at the moment is the Mandalorian, and he wears a mask all the fucking time, even though it's probably not him under the helmet 99% of the time.
Yeah,
but you're probably only going to wear a mask every now and again, right? And I just think it's super intense. It would look intense if you have a mask on, like your vision's compromised, you've got all these things going around, like it just adds something to it. I think it doesn't even have to be all the time. It's only when they go in these closed quarters and things. But I would rather answer your question: spores or connected fungus? Probably connected fungus, I guess, because you've got probably a bit more of a window to get the fuck out of Dodge. Whereas if you walk into some spore mist, then fuck.
Yeah.
I'd be like, oh, I'm just gonna go through this. I'm just gonna go this way. Oh no.
Yeah.
But if it's connected fungus, it's like, right, that's happened. We got to get going.
Yeah, I can't make my mind up, because I feel like it's because they said basically in the series, it's like even if you kill one, it knows that one has died in that area, right? Like that's part of the connection. Which is kind of like, oh, so you can't like kill one really without.
Well, you could. It depends, because they said it's really connected, isn't it? So it could be really far away. So they still got to get to where you are by the time you've moved on. But it's different if you kill one and there's like, a bunch of Tesco's around the corner.
Yeah.
But like that way, my friends. Yeah. But it's because obviously the one that was in the room where Tess died or blew herself up, that was fucking gross as well. When that one
like kissed her.
Although I swear to God, the way that guy looked, like he had like a bit of fungi come out of his head. I swear that actor is constant in zombie films. I feel like the kind of male, dark hair in a baggy suit.
Yeah.
So he's in everything.
We'll put him in Odyssey.
Put him in Odyssey, yeah. So he's but yeah, that was gross. But obviously, when they touched, originally when it happened, I thought, oh, that person's not dead. It's gonna be infected. And they're gonna start going nuts. But then I was like, oh my God, no! It's like pulsing through the fungus to the person. But
yeah,
I mean, they still got out, didn't they? I mean, barely. But
barely,
if Tess was okay, they would have been well out of Dodge. They would have gone. Yeah. I don't think I've ever said well out of Dodge ever, and I think I've said it 3 times in this podcast. So it's a new catchphrase
on it.
So I had someone come by at my work, and he said got him all the time, like got him, and I had that catchphrase going for about 2 months.
Nice.
Didn't matter what was happening. I was like, got him. So I hope Get Out of Dodge doesn't start. Anyway, what else were we going to talk about The Last of Us? I mean, it's I think it did do silly numbers, didn't it? It was like 50 something million.
Yeah, I think it's like their second highest premiere behind House of Dragon, which I think says a lot, because House of Dragon follows like one of the biggest shows ever. Like,
have you seen House of Dragon?
I have.
Is it good?
Say
no more, Nick.
I think we briefly talked about this, but it was on at the same time as Rings. I much preferred Rings. Like, I thought Rings was much better written.
Oh yeah, you like Rings of Power. I remember you.
House of Dragon, I think the first episode's good, and then the problem it's got is that there's almost like no one likable, and so you kind of don't care who sits on the throne. Like in Thrones, there's despicable people, but there's also despicable people you like Jamie, conflicted character, quite liked him. Fair enough.
What did Jamie really do wrong? I mean, he had sex with his sister
and then pushed a kid out a window.
sure, but why was he up there?
Yeah, why was it? Yeah, his fault, right?
And let's all face it worked out pretty well for Bran in the end, didn't it? I
This is
mean,
true. It
he
sits on
got
his own.
powers. So
But yeah,
thanks, Jamie.
And like Cersei, as much as you hate her, at the same time, there were times where you're like, this is entertaining because she is just like evil and chaotic and whatever. House of Dragon, you just don't have that. I just didn't think like everybody in it, you kind of like, if you die, kind of don't care because you are a bit of a bell end.
I just don't think I've got it in me to watch it. I hated the end of Game of Thrones so much, and I'm so annoyed about the books.
Yeah.
I'm just like, I don't think I can start it. Don't.
I mean, like, if it gets
just not
better, I'll
in me.
let you know with the second season. But the first season, I was just very kind of like, I think I just felt passive about it, where I was just kind of like, it's well made. Matt Smith's really good, but I always think
I
he's
just
good
think
enough.
because I mean, he's a very good actor, but I just think because it's a prequel to something that ends so shit. Like it's like when you hear something's getting cancelled, right? It's like,
Yeah.
oh, this is really good. Okay, it's not getting a season 2. I'm like, do I
Yeah, do you want to finish it?
invest my time in it?
Yeah.
We should wrap up the Last of Us stuff and move on. But I
Yes.
have actually watched something, so I'm gonna write it down here so I don't forget to talk about it.
Okay.
This is how the pros do it.
Right.
Okay. Right.
Yeah.
So should we wrap up the Last of Us stuff? So
Yes.
very excited about the future. I'm very excited about the next episode. It's probably going to be very heavy with
Bill.
what's the actor's
Frank.
name? Bill. Bill from Last of Us plays him. It's, what's his name from? Yeah. Awesome stuff.
Yeah, great casting as well.
Was,
like when you meet Bill in part 1, you're like, oh yeah, I can totally see Nick Offerman.
Yeah, you can see it. Yeah. I bet he was kind of like, if he played the game before, he's probably like, I was made for this role.
This role, yeah.
I did read like a lot of the cast really love the game as well, which makes me happy. Like it's like sometimes like, hey, I've been cast as some guy, Thanos. I'm sure Josh Brolin loves Thanos, but he's like, I'm gonna read all the comics now because I've never heard of who he is. But it's cool that they like the games, and the nice thing is that all the guys who play the characters, like Troy Baker and stuff, they generally seem very happy.
With it. Yeah.
With it, like they've got their own thing going, and then this is going, so it's very cool. But so I assume probably when we do our next pop culture episode, we'll probably talk about episodes 3 and 4. Probably. So I look forward to talking more and seeing more. I'm very excited about the bit when the big. Are they called bloaters in part 1?
Yes, they are. There's bloaters and stalkers.
Wait, the stalkers in part 1?
Yeah, there are. So that's in the hotel section as well. Like when you do the generator, when you're like running around, because you have to go get a key card and then you have to come downstairs, do the generator. And when you're picking up the key card, when you turn around, there's like a stalker at the door with like the head popping around. And then when you do when you do the generator, they all come running for you, and then a bloater, and then there's a clicker as well. And then later
just infected.
No, it's stalkers. And then later on, when when you're with Sam and Henry and you get split up, and it's just you and I think the kid's called Henry. I think. I mean, always get confused.
I will just say that I'm the one who guessed what the name was, so it goes on me again. Kid's called Henry.
Henry. When you're with just him and Ellie's gone off with Sam or Henry, you meet them then, because you're like in a massive enclosed like underground area where there's basically been like essentially a community has lived there, and then an infected's got in and everyone's got fucked. But that's like this massive area, and you can see like stalkers just pop their head around.
I just thought stalkers were in part 2.
Yeah, they're creepy because stalkers are the ones that are like hiding behind things, aren't they?
Yeah, so they're the ones in part 2. They're the worst bit of part 2.
They're in part 1, yeah.
When I play through part 2 again, I don't even want to go in this room, but when you hop through the window, and then you're just in this room, it's like
I think they're worse in part 2, but they are in part 1 quite freaky.
Okay.
So I'm curious to see if they're in the series, because they will.
I don't like not knowing how many there are. That's what I don't like.
That's the same in part 1.
I like being able to hear using the senses. Like, okay, so this guy's over here and this thing's over here, but when the stalkers, I'm like, you think you cleared the room, And then I think that's the noise they make. I can't remember what noise. It's probably more like a predator.
Just before we do wrap this up, did you think visually as well the clicker looked cool?
Yeah, I did. I thought it looked spot on.
It's all like practical as well, as far as I know.
Yeah, I thought like the way it's the same. It's the same actors that were the clickers in the game. The ones who did the ones who did all the effects. What the fuck's it called, Nick?
Mocap.
Yeah, Jesus Christ, that's like. I mean, say that I've been not so tired recently, but here we are. Mocap. Yes, I'll remember this. I'll write it on my notes for next time. So awesome show. Really enjoying it. Looking forward to part 3. I'll try and like add a little bit more on our social medias as it goes on. What we're thinking about it as well. So awesome. So we've got a couple of other things to talk about before we finish this episode. So probably one of the biggest stories that's happened over the last month or so. We've had a bit of a gap over Christmas. Everything was that James Gunn is now head honcho with Peter Schaefer.
Peter Safran.
Yeah.
Schaefer. Pick one.
Should have just. I wrote down Peter. Just didn't write down his surname.
Because you're on
cares
first
about
name
names
basis.
Anyway? So no one can track it down. We're horrible about people. James and Peter. James and Peter are now running DC. It kind of goes over a lot of things. They'll oversee the DCU, so the DC films, animated as well. Pretty sure they got a hand in their comics as well, things like that.
Yeah,
so
I think, from what
really
I understand, the
big,
plan is to like try and like connect everything, like
connect
video games,
everything,
all of them,
apart from Matt Reeves' Batman, which is not going to happen.
Should be kept separate.
Separate that and Joker. Those two things are going to be kept separate for now until they do Final Crisis or like
something,
whatever they're going to do, and they'll pop and be like the Spider-Man. So I think it's cool. I think James Gunn is a very good person to maybe bring all this together. I don't kind of know how it's going to work. There are a shit ton of rumors around, but Nick and I discussed before we recorded that we're not going to talk about those rumors.
Yes.
I think the oddest thing is that there are still some films to come out which clearly are probably not part of this new era.
Yeah.
Obviously, you had Black Adam, which was atrocious.
Yes.
And then you have Henry Cavill show up at the end of that, and he's like not going to be in The Witcher anymore because of other commitments. I don't think it was necessarily because of Superman. And then all of a sudden, he's not Superman anymore.
Yeah.
And then Aquaman got pushed back.
Yeah.
He's still got The Flash to come out, which I always thought was hopefully going to rewrite a lot of stuff. But then apparently Jason Momoa's Aquaman is in that as well. Batman's in there. So that's going to be a bit of a mess. I mean, I don't know if you've seen the trailer for the new Shazam film, but that looks like a shit show.
Oh, really? I liked the first trailer, but I liked the first Shazam as well. I thought the first one was good. But
you liked the first Shazam too.
I think the thing is like, I think Shazam's going to stay because Safran's produced it. So I think a lot of that
you could say it's going to stay, right? But then obviously there's all the nods to, at the end of Shazam, you get like the torso Superman in his bedroom. He's got like a Ben Affleck Batman and the Henry Cavill Superman and Gal Gadot Wonder Woman. It's like there's too many things that behind. I think that's what James Gunn is noticing as well. Like there's so much to clear up. Like they're just gonna have to start fresh. I mean, Jason Momoa has like put a video up, hasn't he? He came out of the meeting with James Gunn and he wanted to be Lobo in the future, and he's like super fucking happy. But he could be super fucking happy because James Gunn's like, we're gonna make 20 Aquaman films, or like
he did say
is going to be like
he did say recently that he is Aquaman, that's staying.
Okay.
As far as I remember, I read an article where Jason Momoa said, "I'm Aquaman, like I am."
So then there's only two people then potentially that are confirmed. There's Momoa as Aquaman, and potentially Shazam.
Blue Beetle. I'm fairly certain that's going to stick.
Blue Beetle, and then I wish they would just.
Although Peacemaker's kind of the same, where like the Superman.
I think the only thing he could do, isn't it? And this isn't a rumor. This isn't anything I've read, but I was just thinking that the only thing he could do is that because they've done some reshots on Aquaman, haven't they? It seems very likely that they've got rid of what's her name? You know, that person that went to court with.
Is the character?
I know her comic name, but I'm not. I know
Amber Heard.
like names. Amber Heard. Yeah, it's the real names that I struggle with. If my kids were called like Flash and Wonder Woman, wouldn't have a problem.
Yeah.
But it's the real names I struggle with. I just wish everyone went by their fake names.
Are you saying you struggle with your kids' names? You're like,
so I struggle with everyone's names. That's why I don't text back so frequently, because I'm like, who the fuck am I texting?
Yeah.
Yeah, I wonder if at the end of Flash, if there is some sort of end credits thing, or even if it's at the end of the film now, like they do like a flashpoint thing, like again, where it's just like everything changes, and then it's kind of like a House of M thing, right? Where Wanda like rewrites everything, and Wolverine's the only person who remembers what reality is. But like maybe Aquaman is like the only person who's like, hey, this is not the way it should be, but I like it.
I'll go with it. Yeah,
so I don't know. Do I have to say Yahoo again as I jump through the sky? Maybe. We don't know yet.
I mean, to be fair, he did worse things in his own film. Like, there is literally a bit where he gets out of an ocean and Pitbull plays. Just like, why is that in the film?
Wouldn't it be saying if like Pitbull's like just had a meet with James Gunn?
Yeah, just that whole film is...
I'm scoring everything now going forward.
Yeah, that first Aquaman film is
terrible.
I actually think Black Adam might be better than that. I don't know.
No, Black Adam is really bad. It's really bad. I mean, just a flex, but it's just a flex for Dwayne Johnson, isn't it? Like it's not good. I didn't like it anyway. Like I mean, I like The Rock. I like Dwayne Johnson. I think he's cooler. I think Black Adam is cool, but it's just
Aquaman is better just because there are some good visuals. Like Black Manta looks cool.
Yeah, Black Manta's cool. But then I don't know. Anyway, I don't know what they're going to do with it. I think it's good. I really wish it was kind of announced after Guardians of the Galaxy 3 had come out, though. I kind of like. I feel like they could have been doing things behind the scenes still, and Shazam could have come out and things like that, and then Guardians of the Galaxy 3, because it kind of feels a bit. I know he's got a really good relationship with Kevin Feige and everything, but just makes me feel like
part of the problem. I think, like, if they had left it, is that up until the point where James Gunn and Peter Safran were announced, like DC News was a shit show. It was just like rumor after like fucking.
It still isn't it? Nothing's really changed. In that
but then you've got
James Gunn as. Yeah, I mean it's cool. I mean it sounds like.
I think
it sounds like he's sitting in an office and he's calling in his like staff, isn't it? It's like Henry Cavill. Like, I mean, you did a good job, buddy. We all like Man of Steel, but then we're looking in a different direction. We want someone younger, blah blah blah, and then it's like Jason Momoa comes in and Gal Gadot. Like, there's a lot of big calls. Like, I guess removing Gal Gadot as Wonder Woman is.
That's not official, though, is it? As far as I know.
Oh, it's not official, but it doesn't sound good, does it? I think that's kind of the writings on the wall with it, sadly. But I think if you're going to do it, you might as well. I mean, you might as well start again. But then everyone's like, they quite like Ezra Miller as Flash still. Like it's, as someone who's been through controversy himself, as James Gunn has been, like he's probably like, hey, let's give this guy a chance, or them a chance. So it's, I don't know where it goes. I think it's good. I think it's a good thing overall because it was kind of dying a death, and they have to move on from the Zack Snyder stuff. I still think Zack Snyder deserves another crack at some sort of a superhero film. I think there's still.
I mean, he's got Red Moon now. He's got Army of the Dead.
I know he's got Red Moon, and it's good, doesn't it? I like the bits of that. Yeah. So yes, excited. I mean, he's supposed to announce a lot of stuff, isn't he, in January? But he's running out of time.
Yeah, he said it was still. I wonder next week, like 31st of January. It's still January.
Well, we will see on the next time we talk. There'll probably be a bunch of stuff announced. So, all right then, moving on. So something I think last time we spoke about a little bit, because I had seen Black Panther 2, but you hadn't seen it.
Yeah, I think I saw it like the week after we recorded, or maybe 2 weeks after.
Because as of now, it hits Disney Plus on the 1st of February, which is the upcoming week. But you obviously then went to see it at the cinema then?
Yeah. Harry and I went to see it.
Harry.
I enjoyed it. I was surprised because I thought the first was pretty shit. Just because it's like every other Marvel film. It's like literally copy and pasted in terms of a plot. And I felt like this one opening's really good, like the setup with how he's died and like seeing that moment of her trying to like, save him, and it's just she can't.
It's pretty emotional.
There is probably sections you could cut because it's quite long.
Yeah, it's quite long.
And I think there are bits that you could cut or trim or whatever. I thought the ending's really good as well with her on the beach. That's done really well. And I think the thing that I like the most about it is that, like, I think I enjoy Marvel films and I enjoy superhero films as well, where they've got stakes, where there's something that matters. And it's not like just end of the world, because fucking that's done so much. I feel like there has to be like some personal stake or something. Like, I think that's why I like Zach's superhero films, because generally they all seem to have like personal stakes of some sort, or like something happening, and there's like some grievances and whatever else. But Marvel, I think there's a lot of films where they forget that, and it becomes more about like, here's a spectacle, and it's almost spectacle over story. But Black Panther 2, I feel like, does the balance. I think there's some really cool spectacles. Things look cool. Thing that looked really fucking awful. Sorry. Like, have you seen The Predator, the film that came out a few years ago?
The
Shane Black one. That's
the Shane Black one. Yeah, I've seen it. Yeah, it's crap.
Yeah, it's terrible. You know the end of it where there's that really shit scene where like the Predator robot thing turns up, and it's like,
yeah,
that should have just been Arnie, but
Predabot
get Arnie, so this is shit. Do you not think that looks exactly the same as the fucking suits in the second Black Panther? The ones that look really dodgy.
I mean, I didn't think about it at the time, but I guess now you put that in my mind. Can't wait to rewatch it now with Yannicka.
When they turned up, Harry and I were both like, they look shit. Like they don't look like Marvel has had a CG problem for a little while. Like stuff not looking like She-Hulk looks a bit shit. And like there's sections in this where like Ironheart looks fucking awful, or those things look awful. I don't know what they're called.
Just doesn't look. Some of it just doesn't look polished, does it? That was the thing with She-Hulk, is that sometimes it looked really good and seamless, like especially in some of the fights. But sometimes when she was walking from A to B in an office, it looked like someone just was like, yeah, this is done, put it in. But it really needed to be a bit more finessed.
Yeah, and I think the same with Moon Knight as well. There are some shots in Moon Knight where it kind of is like, that looks like a very CGI character. Like it doesn't look live action. That looks CG, and not like Avatar CG where you're like, the fuck is this?
Avatar. Have you seen the second one?
I have. I've seen it twice. And
twice.
I twice, and I liked it.
Everyone likes it. Why? Why does everyone like it?
It's like over long. Like it shouldn't be as long as it is. There's definitely sections you can cut.
First one was crap.
Yeah,
isn't it? I mean, I know it was like 50 years ago. But
I quite enjoyed the first one, but it, like, narratively, it's like, it's not the most interesting. This, I think, is more interesting narratively because it's basically like just a revenge story, and then the last act is like every James Cameron film ever. It's like, here's Aliens, here's Titanic, and here's The Abyss.
Everyone likes it though. I'm gonna have to see it. I don't want to see it. Like I did not like the first one. I did not think the narrative was, and I know I love like superhero films, but just did not like Avatar. And I just remember thinking, it just takes so long to get to this one.
I mean, like he did shoot
2, 3, 4, and 5. I was like, he said this a million years ago.
I mean, the third one is out this year. To be fair, it's a yearly release. Well, he shot them both back to back, so it's done.
Yeah, that's what he says. James Cameron wants you to think.
I think it will be. He shot 2, 3 back to back and shot part of the fourth across like 10 years, which is like fair enough. But the thing I like about it the most, the thing that like I think I enjoyed the most about it, is that it's a blockbuster that is original, that it's not based on an IP, that it's like in a landscape where cinema is kind of struggling, because it's like you've got streamers who are buying up all the indies and they're in the cinema for like a week. Like Glass Onion was in the cinema for like a week.
Oh man, have you seen Glass Onion?
Yeah, loved it.
Oh fuck, what's going on with this?
Oh, I loved it. But yeah, like Charles and I saw it in the cinema, and I was like, it should have been in the cinema for like a month, but it was on for a week because it was Netflix. And then your blockbusters are basically just your superhero films. Like anything else can't really break through that. And I like that Avatar is the exception, that it's like it's somebody's original take that is big and expensive and a spectacle. And
yeah, like you have to go and see it at the cinema, don't you? Like
yeah, like it's a film that I don't
know
if it works as well at home. Like I've seen it at IMAX twice, so I've seen it like full fucking IMAX and 60 frames or whatever, which hurts my eyes.
That's 3D in IMAX as well, yeah? Or is it?
Yeah, 3D IMAX, high frame rate, and it's like, yeah, by the last act, you're like, this is intense. But yeah, I enjoyed that. But yeah, Black Panther, I think narratively it's good, visually dodgy, and there's definitely probably 30 minutes easy.
It is a bit long. I think I don't really think it ever really got out of second gear either, but not in a bad way, just in like probably the right tone for obviously a very hard film to make.
Yeah.
What did you think about Neymar?
I thought he was good. I just thought like the end fight was ultimately pointless. Because
yes, it was pointless, but I thought he was like, I thought he was a cool villain.
Yeah, he was. Yeah, it was cool.
It just anti-hero.
I think that was the issue with the stakes. Is like the stakes of grief is what I think is interesting about that film. The villain stakes, I think, aren't particularly interesting because it
didn't really need a big villain, though, did it?
No.
It really didn't. It just needed someone to like give them something. I mean, it probably would have been very epic if it was, you know, Chadwick Boseman, Black Panther against Neymar, and I still think like everything to do with Black Panther was well handled. I'm glad they not recast it, but filled the boots of Black Panther they have. I think the underwater scenes looked a lot better than something like Aquaman as well. Like I thought they looked like when he sits on a stone and everything, and it's like dark and dingy rather than trying to make it all like playful and lovely. It's like I mean, the water is dark and dingy. Like it's not sunshine down there, and like a Little Mermaid. So yeah, I thought
what I did also really fucking hate about it, and like obviously those CGI warriors were like,
why can't we ever just be happy? Why can't we just say that we like a film completely rather than both spend? I liked it, but also what I fucking
hate.
Allegra,
like I've never got on with her. Like
no, I know you don't like her, do you?
She's just terrible. But like in that, pointless. Like that whole storyline of her and Martin Freeman.
But that was just to give Martin Freeman something, wasn't it, as well?
It was, and like
he was in it, but he probably would have had a different role if Chadwick Boseman was.
I guess, but I just thought like
they're teeing her up for the Thunderbolts, aren't they? She's going to be the one that's like running. That she's going to be the Amanda Waller, isn't she? Of the Thunderbolts, I think.
Yeah, she's just less interesting than Amanda Waller. I don't know what it is. They just haven't written her particularly well. Like I think it's the whole like, I'm gonna secretly backstab people and they won't find out. But it's like, well, they will. Whereas Amanda Waller is like,
kill you,
actually executes stuff, and you're like, wow, she's messed up.
She is messed up.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I'm gonna watch it again. I've got to watch it with my wife. She hasn't seen it yet, so I'll be watching that. And I'm very excited about Quantumania, which is out in a couple of weeks as well. I assume you will be seeing it because you love Ant-Man.
I will see it. I'm seeing it primarily for Jonathan Majors.
Jonathan Majors.
Who I want to know if he's stacked, because I saw the trailer for Creed 3, which looks awesome.
Oh, he's stacked. He's stacked.
He is ridiculous in Creed 3.
He's going to be, I'm telling you now, like Jonathan Majors is going to be the best thing in the MCU for the next 4 years.
I hope so.
Man.
That film looks very 50-50, but I hope so.
Kang is just...
Yeah. There's just other things in it which look shit. MODOK.
But hopefully he's probably just going to be a little bit of a background character, isn't he? But I think Paul Rudd and Jonathan Majors and stuff will pull it through. I think it looks good. I just read an article for work actually on Kang and stuff, and it got me even more hyped for it. So I'm excited about that. But two things that I have seen that we will quickly run through is I wasn't going to talk about it, but you said you like Glass Onion, which is a big no-no. Glass Onion was not good at all. So stupid. Just loved it. Stupid film.
Loved it. Everything.
I really like the first one. It's like proper like family, big house. This one was just nonsense.
I don't know. I quite liked it. Some
of the performances were good. Edward Norton and stuff like that. Daniel Craig's obviously very good, but Jesus Christ, just took so, and no one, you don't even find out if anyone gets there like comeuppance at the end. Just
I don't know. I see. I quite like the play on how ridiculous and douchebaggy influencers and tech people are, and how they think they've got the world in their hands, and that this guy is kind of like Elon Musk, where it's
I mean, that's probably where a bit of the inspiration has come from,
yeah,
isn't it? Surely,
yeah. It's
just I like the little bits. I like if you watch it back again, you'll see like all the links that Daniel Craig's character is picking up on, but it just did not like. I was really excited about it as well because of the cast, and the first one and just did not land for me.
Yeah, I really loved it. Like, I just thought it was smart. And the thing I liked the most, like when they burnt the Mona Lisa, that was the bit where I was like, oh, this is a bit mental. And then at the end, when they do the line of like, you wanted to be forever known as the same sentence in the Mona Lisa, I was like, fuck, that's quite clever. Like, you've done it in a really outrageous way that I never would have thought you'd do. But yeah, I really like that.
Yeah, didn't do it. There are quite a few people that I've seen it and they didn't enjoy it either. But I guess it's like you're probably either going to really like it or not like it, right? Like typically most things. But
yeah.
But it is what it is.
Loved it.
Something else I watched, which I've always wanted to watch, and I don't know if you would have seen it. It's a bit different to it's super related. But I watched the Harley Quinn animated show.
Oh, I haven't seen it. I've heard great things though. Like everybody raves about it.
It's so good. It's so good. You have to watch it. Just
I will.
Whatever you do, promise me by the time
I don't know if it's on anything over here though. Like it's on HBO Max, but we don't have.
It's just somehow get hold of it. Like you'll fall for it. You fall in love with it. It's like the way they do Joker, the way they do Batman. The best thing is the way they do Jim Gordon. He's just so needy for Batman. He like puts the light on, bat signal on, and that Batman shows up and he's like, Jim, what do you want? Did you want to talk? And he's like, yeah, about my broken marriage. And Batman's like, huh? He's like, no, stay. It's just it's perfect. Nice. It's so good.
Yeah.
So I've burned through all 3 seasons of it.
I'll give it a watch at some point when I find it on something.
Splendid. All right. Well, I mean that wraps up this wonderful pop culture episode. Our next episode will talk a little bit about pop culture like we do. We'll talk probably a little bit about The Last of Us and a couple of other things, but we're mainly going to be doing a bit of in-depth, and it's carrying on with our Kevin Smith films, so the Skewerverse, and it's more rats.
Yes.
More rats.
Yeah.
So
have you seen Clerks 3 yet? Or are you waiting until we get to it?
Oh, I'm waiting. Because the thing is, if I watch Clerks 3 now, and then we're like, hey, we're going to record our podcast on this date, then what will happen is it will get delayed by several weeks. And then I'll be like, oh, now I need to watch Clerks 3 again. So I'm going to watch it. We're going to say we're going to record. I'm going to watch Clerks 3, and then we're going to go straight into recording.
Yeah, I love it. Good.
That's the dream. So if you want to hear about, listen to our old podcasts, so the Consistently OK podcast, on old episodes, you can find us wherever you get your podcasts. You can just search for Consistently OK. You can watch our videos on YouTube at Consistently OK, and you can find us on Twitter and Instagram at Consistently Pod.
Yeah.
So that's where we are.
That's it.
We will do more on social media.
We're also
on Twitch.
Yeah. Which, if
you can see Nick and Harry playing Alien.
Yes, we finished it. We had a problem, so because Alien, when it was made for PS4, they introduced like a face tracking thing with your camera. So if you've got the camera on, it can notice your head tilting, and it does it in the game. But because of that, we couldn't put video onto our live stream because it doesn't recognize the camera for live streaming. So it's just our audio. But it was good. We finished it.
It's intense.
Which is what we set out to do, and I think the whole video is on YouTube. It's like 4 hours if you've got 4 hours to kill. Just finish Alien.
Just watching a blank screen on YouTube but hearing Nick panic is worth anyone's time. But we'll be doing more on Twitch.
we're gonna do loads more.
I mean, I might do something to do with The Last of Us sooner rather than later. I'll probably get the part 1. We'll also do something for Spider-Man 2 when it comes out, and we will do probably something for Suicide Kills the Justice League.
Yeah, I'm very 50-50.
Depending on how that even works.
Yeah.
And also, I will probably eventually get Gotham Knights just to give it a go.
We should do that at some point. Yeah.
Dirt cheap.
Yeah, when it's like a 10 or something.
Because I'd quite like to play it for the first time if we both play it at the same time, because neither of us have played it. So we'll probably look at doing that as well. So more Twitches, probably more social media stuff, and definitely more episodes. So Nick, always a pleasure.
Always good, dude. I'm excited. Looking forward to it.
I'm excited about everything. I know you're excited about Ant-Man, like you said. Don't shut up about it. I'm excited.
Tell you what I am excited about, just to end this on a note that I am genuinely really excited about, that it shouldn't be as good as it is, but the trailer, which I saw in IMAX, for John Wick 4.
John Wick 4. It's going to be good, isn't it?
The trailer shouldn't be as good as it is, because it's the 4th film, and usually by a 4th film, you're like, it's getting a bit stale. It just looks so fucking good. Like,
tell you what I saw. Nobody.
Oh, I haven't seen it yet. I heard it's good.
It is good.
Good. Yeah. There's a second one as well.
It's not John Wick good, but it's good.
Honestly, chapter 4, that trailer just was like that looks so good.
Wow. I don't think I've seen the trailer since it came out, but I probably watched it on my phone on a tiny screen. So I will check out. I mean, I haven't been to the cinema, but
since Black Panther.
But yeah, since Black Panther 2, yeah. And the next thing I'll be seeing is Ant-Man on the 15th of this month. Next month, because I guess this is out at the end of this month.
Yeah. Yes.
Jesus, just can't get anything right, can I? Next podcast, everyone. There'll be no mistakes. I'll get every actor's name right. But my references will be on point. Although I don't think that's the point in this podcast, because it's consistently okay.
Yeah.
If I got everything right, it would just be the very good
podcast.
But that's boring. Yeah. So, all right, my man. Take it easy, everyone. Have a good end to January and a good February coming up.
Yes.
All right.
Soon.
I can't remember what my catchphrase is, but I don't think it's one I can end on. Get out of Dodge.
Get out of Dodge.
Get out of Dodge. All right. Take care. Bye-bye.
Bye.